Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the regular March school committee meeting here on Tuesday, March 24th at 6:30 p.m. in the Abington Middle High School Library. I'd just like to ask anybody, please stand to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Opportunity for any visitors if they'd like to approach the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. And we will not have any. First up, reading and approval of records. So we have 3 sets in here. We have our regular meeting on March 3rd, our regular meeting on March 10th, and our executive session on March 10th. We're just going to do each one separately. So after the committee gets a chance to review the minutes from March 3rd, I'll be looking for a motion to approve or amend if you see anything on there that you need.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Up next, the regular meeting on March 10th that we had, the quick one.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
And then lastly, the executive session from March 10th.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And there we go. Okay. First order of business, report of the Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Basta, is going to be the English Department update with
Yep.
Dr. Elizabeth Gonzalez.
Yeah, you want to come on up? We are ready for you.
Thank you. So the areas of focus since the last time I've been here to see you have been these 3. For teachers in the department at the high school to use a common grade calculation formula, we made more formal the advanced placement timed writing session update. I would like to tell you for AP 11 that sophomores going into junior year. And we've had ongoing curriculum alignment. So the first I'd like to tell you about is the common grade calculation formula. One of the things that we've noticed as students get recommended from grade to grade and level to level is that sometimes students would have very good grades and they would go from level 2 to level 1 and they would not have a strong year. And the question was, if you didn't have these skills or you weren't able to approach the curriculum at level 1, why was that? And what we found out was teachers were taking academic writing, and sometimes it was 35% of the grade, sometimes it was 50% of the grade, sometimes it was 75% of the grade. So what we agreed to do as a department is that academic writing would be no less than 60% of a student's grade. And it should be that skill in reaching those standards in the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks that would really let us know whether students were prepared to move levels, whether it was 2 to 1 or 1 to advanced placement. 30% of the grade is for formative assessment, projects, homework, quizzes, that kind of thing. And the last 10% is for accountability. Sometimes things like participation, attendance, homework is accountability, but it doesn't necessarily tell you what students know and are able to do and shouldn't drive 15, 20, 25% of the grade. At the end of the day, when a unit is complete, the writing that students do that's academic should drive their grade. I will tell you myself, I've always, with AP and level 1 students, it was 90% of the grade. This year with my level 1 students, it's 100% of their grade. And the reason it's 100% is when you're shooting baskets, the baskets that you shoot in practice don't count. They don't count toward the game. What happens is what happens on the court. And students should feel free to take risks in practice, but when it comes to what you know and are able to do at the end of the unit, that should bear the weight in the grade. So minimum 60% academic writing across all English teachers. The AP timed writing session we have always had. Sometimes it happened in the classroom. Sometimes students had completed in grade 10 a major summative writing assessment. They'd done a timed writing assessment in the classroom. But this year, we offered every student who wanted to take advanced placement in grade 11 the opportunity to sit for 2 timed writing prompts in the seminar room over a 3-hour period, which is a little longer than they would have, but it's the first time they've really had a timed writing. And this worked the way we had hoped to. There are students who wanted to have AP on their transcript to curate a transcript that would look good to colleges, regardless of what was actually going to happen in that course, whether they were ready for it, but this was a chance to try it on for size because timed writing is done every 3 weeks in an AP English writing class and constitutes 3 or 4 major grades in a marking period. So for students to sit back to back and respond to a question they've never seen before, when I say it worked the way we wanted to, sometimes students said, I don't like writing that much. I don't like the feeling of writing to a prompt that I haven't studied, that the teacher hasn't laid out before me. So there are students who self-selected out. There were some students who did really well and found out they had a talent that they didn't know they had, and there were students on the border. So who scored the timed writing sessions? Not me. I teach all 3 level 1 sophomore classes. Other teachers in the English department, 2 teachers to each sample of student writing, and they didn't know who wrote what. They were just coded with a number. Students were anonymous to them, and we found out of about the 30 students who sat for this, 30 plus, 32, about a third were ready, a third were not, and a third could have gone either way. They were given this as information for them and their parents to make this decision. Some students said, I want to take it anyway, even though I didn't do well this first time. And the truth is, they will be learning those skills in the first months of the class. But are these the skills you want to learn? And that's the question. I have had years in the past when I used to teach AP where I would be halfway through the year and it was a slog. And I would say, do you like to write? No. Do you like to read? No. Why are you here? It will look good on my transcript. And we've had the situation where we would have 2 sections of grade 11 AP language, and by the end of senior year, we have 1. So students self-select out of that grade 11. And there's nothing like having a new teacher, not a new teacher to teaching, but a new teacher to us, to inspire curriculum alignment. So we have a new teacher this year, and she has breathed fresh air into the curriculum because the curriculum that's written is not necessarily the curriculum that's taught. Teacher to teacher, it might get tweaked, things aren't recorded, and she asked questions, and people gave her honest answers, and it inspired curriculum alignment that didn't include her. So our common planning time and our Wave Week Wednesdays has been devoted to curriculum alignment. And that's what common planning is supposed to be for, and it's working really well. At the end of the year, we'll upload those updates as well. So relative to the strategic plan, updating the procedure for revising, writing, and implementing curriculum is really at the heart of the work we've been doing in common planning time. And that supports the goals here. Refining methods and practices for consistent school-to-home communication is also part of what that common grade calculation is. So that would be common to all teachers in the documents that go home about students' grades, especially syllabus. So these are the ways we're supporting the Abington strategic plan. So,
Yeah, I was going to say, you've heard this 3 times now. Does anybody have any questions about how our students get into AP?
No.
No,
Great.
we're good, thank
Do you
you.
want to say
we don't
anything?
say no. The College Board would like us to cast the net wide, but we do know from looking at scores over the last several years that some students do not score well. This is not the way learning English language arts works for them, but sometimes you don't know until you try. And we do promote risks, and we do offer student support. For instance, there were some students recently who did not do well on a timed writing, and if they received a low score, they were given the opportunity to revise and earn a grade of 75. So it doesn't mean that there's no support or no revision in AP, but if we know a student is going to struggle from the jump and there might not be a fallback because we have singletons. For instance, we've had students who want to drop because they want to focus on anatomy and physiology, but the only other English that would fit into their schedule is running against anatomy and physiology. Some years it's been banned. So the idea is we'd like to get students in a place where they're comfortable before the school year starts so that they have the biggest options. And we just want to tell students as experts, as people who've looked at them all year and at an AP-like task, this is what we think would be best for you. But students, of course, can override that with their family's consent. So we have a common sense of inviting students to the table here. So here are the scores. And in AP Language, we have seen a slight improvement. If you look especially at the scores for 3, 4, and 5, 29 to 37. And that's really the crux of it. Those are students who have credible exam performances. And we went from 2.21 as our mean to 2.93, which is getting closer to most of our students scoring 3 or better. And that's something that we were excited about. And we're getting closer also to the state and the global scores. We did go from having 90% of our students who took the test in 2024 down to 79. But our rate of people who take AP Language increased. 24% of the class did in 2024. 2025, it was 28%. So once we get over a third of students in a class taking the AP, we really have to question whether all those students are ready for it. But this is a safe place to take those risks and find out how they fare against college work. In AP Literature, much fewer students took the exam. We went from, no, other way around. Fewer students took AP Literature. So we went from 2 sections, which was 32% of the class, to 15%. And there was a little bit of an exodus when we started this school year, and students took a look at their schedule and see how demanding it was. And many of our students who were taking math or science AP elected to drop their English AP. But what we do see is that more students took the exam. Even though fewer students took the course, more of those students took the exam. And we'd like to see students challenge themselves not only with the exam, but to see where they stand against students in Massachusetts and across the world, really. And we did see an increase in the mean there from 2.95 to 3.14, which was really nice. And we did have students score in the 5 category, which, as you look, is rare. The AP Lit test is one of the hardest tests I've ever seen. And that we had 2 students, which is 14%, because it's a small group, do well is something we're happy about. So it is a more narrowly focused presentation, but there's certainly a lot to talk about if you have any questions.
You're talking about overall or?
Overall, or anything. That's it.
Could you please share with us what you have next to you?
Yes.
Thank you.
One of the things that I like to do is share something that students have done that I'm especially proud of. And I usually share things that I take a risk with. And one of the things that I'm devoted to is inspiring students to choose to read even when a teacher doesn't assign it. So after we finished All Souls, my sophomores were challenged to do a passion project, book project. They could choose a topic that they were passionate about, find something to read, and create a project that would be marked for originality, the value of their passion, and the execution of a project that showed that passion. So some students, I want to show the flashier ones that are 3-dimensional. This project was done by a pair of students for Fahrenheit 451. And they tackled the topic of censorship today in so much of what we read, not just books in libraries, but other papers. The effect of things being redacted and kept from public view. So the application of the book to contemporary life in writing is very evident here. And so is this originality. For instance, I had students who were doing Animal Farm. And I said, if you can Google the project for Animal Farm, it is not original or creative or passionate, There are examples of students since the 1950s who have done the allegory of this pig represents this Russian political character. So if you can Google it, I don't want to see that project. I want to see a non-Googleable project. And I do have another student who read The Poet X by Elizabeth Azevedo, who illustrated, did an alternate book cover, and then wrote a dozen poems. She was so inspired. And it wasn't all literary and poetry either. I had 2 students who talked it over with their dad and their grandparents, and they decided to read business books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Go-Givers, and they did PowerPoints, and they taught me the business principles that they learned because that's what they're passionate about. So we also recommended those books to Ms. Howell in business as something students might enjoy. So they really had a chance to do that. I brought some projects if the school committee would like to look at it, but I didn't add 5 slides to the PowerPoint. But I wanted you to know that at the heart of the English department is promoting reading for pleasure as well as for information. So I left copies of the rubric too, in case you'd like to look at them. Thank you, Ms. Hernandez, for reminding me to say that.
Thank you for bringing it. The work is incredible.
Dr. G, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
In the beginning, you mentioned how shots in practice don't count towards the games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just maybe even, because I think I know the answer, but maybe even for clarity for everybody, when you have practice, though, and you as the coach or whoever provides feedback throughout that, so people aren't going in blind saying, I got to do all this practicing on my own and then hope I'm doing it right, it's 100% of my grade. There's a process where they're submitting things, you're reviewing things and giving feedback back and forth before a final submission is due, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So students have the opportunity. We do a lot of lead-in assignments. We do things like when we read All Souls, they have to have a response, then they write 3 questions, then they give a quote. And the idea is when we have a class discussion, they can refer back to those questions and quotes. So I do a participation discussion, and they get credit for doing that. And then they have information to use to write their weekly papers. So any of those practice things we do in the classroom, if I have them turn them in, I give them a participation credit, but that category doesn't have any weight in their grade. Does that make sense?
It does. I think I just more was anybody just following along that. It wasn't, oh God, I'm stuck on trying to do as best as I can in this one shot and they're going to get it and that's the only time they're going to see it and it's 100% of my grade. I just wanted for people to be able to know that it's a feedback process as it
Yes,
works
it is.
towards the end.
So one of the things that's really nice is that it takes time to read and it takes time to write, which even our most competitive students have very little of. So I give reading workshop and writing workshop time in class, and students will come and say, oh, can you read this over and give me some feedback? And it's getting them, because it is, for me, the 100% piece is, let me give you that feedback. If you want to have a good grade, ask for feedback. That's one of the beautiful parts of Bridge Block. Can I talk to you about my essay? Would you read this over? I'd like you to see if I'm using the Axis model outline. Does my thesis have 3 parts? One of the things I do is I ask them to put their thesis statement in a Canvas discussion anonymously, and then I go through and I let them know if they're on target, if part of their thesis is on target, or if you need to start again. And then they get it anonymously. Everybody in the class gets to see the feedback in a range of attempts, and then they know that they have a solid thesis to go and write the rest of their paper. So we have classroom-based feedback, and any student in my group who fails to meet the standard by earning a holistic grade of 80 can revise. But what I am not interested in is students who have a 92 who want to revise to a 93, 94, 95 and keep coming back, because you can't necessarily chip away on grace and sophistication or sentence variety. That's something I'll give you feedback and you apply it the next time. I really like using the speed grader in Canvas because I use a highlighting system. And if the student has answered the question, I highlight it in blue. If they need more detail, I highlight it in green to grow. If they have an error, I highlight it in yellow. Let them try and figure it out. And then, why do I have a yellow highlight? But we also struggled with this idea of how do I get an A? And the idea is I give an 80 if the student meets the standard. Some students said, where did my 16 points go? And my question is, well, there's more that you can do. You've met the standard, but let's try to exceed the standard. Let's grow toward exceeding the standard. So you see those areas that are green? Why don't you add that detail? And then I developed a pink highlight for, let me show you where your writing is graceful. Let me highlight in pink the words that are excellent, excellently chosen. If you have an insight where you make a connection to yourself or the world or another text, pink. And by exceeding the standard, reaching the standard, and growing toward the standard more visible, my students know what those color-coded highlights are. They can see it and they'll learn what to ask about to how they can make their work better. So I try to give a lot of feedback.
Yeah, I know you do.
If you're meeting the standard and going above, then pay it forward, do it the next time. If you're not meeting the standard, let's hold up here. Let's make sure you get to the standard, get a grade of 80 or better, whatever it is. If students' grade should represent what they know and are able to do. So if they get a 90, they get a 90. Because I want to show the accurate growth toward the standard.
No, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It doesn't mean there's not feedback. Just like you wouldn't have a team and say, you don't have to practice.
Right, that was more what I was, that was more just the message to get across to everybody,
Absolutely.
so. Anybody else have any?
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Okay. You were talking about the ongoing curriculum alignment and how
Yes.
the new person who came in had identified areas. I just want to be clear, it's not that we weren't meeting the standards with the curriculum, it's just that the orientation, documentation, if you will, for curriculum may not have been aligned with actual practice.
So we had been teaching All Souls for over 20 years. And if you're very familiar with the text and you're very familiar with ancillary documents that go with the curriculum, the connection might not be clear to someone who's never read the text before. So what we were doing is making the written curriculum align with the taught curriculum, but when the people who've taught the curriculum aren't there, you have to ask questions about that. So it wasn't that the curriculum itself was in error. There was a lack of clarity to someone who is new to the community, because as curriculum gets taught, a different article might be brought in, part of a documentary might be shown. There are new things, and people who've been teaching it for 10 or 20 years know what they're doing. But when someone who's new to that doesn't realize how all these parts go together, we're just aligning the curriculum for clarity.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that two people who are teaching it in a common way and using similar summative assessments. So for instance, Ms. McHugh had written the curriculum. I didn't write the curriculum, but when I came to teach sophomores, I stood on her shoulders, if you will, and I used her summatives. But she's retired and I've tweaked them since. And we want to make sure that the next persons who are teaching that text understand what the connection is.
Okay.
It's just more for clarity. It's not that there was anything in error. But that also happens when you have 3 people teaching freshman English and 3 people teach Romeo and Juliet, and they use film in certain clips and so forth. Well, which clips do you use? When do you stop? When do you do this assessment? Which vocabulary do you use? And the department's been very generous. There's some people who don't like to share the work that they do or the assessments that they've done, but we have always strived to have a common approach across a grade, as well as from grade to grade.
Right.
So we take things for granted when we do them for a long time. And this is more about creating clarity and deciding whether these are things we want to continue doing. Thank you.
Thank you. And one other question on the AP side. So if you have a student who is looking to attain a 4 or 5 on the AP exam, and they don't feel ready, what are the options for the student? You mentioned Bridge Block is a way to work on writing. Is that generally how students approach if they want to ensure success on the AP exam? Do they come to you during bridge walk? Do they do things on the side?
Well, there are test-taking strategies in the AP class. Built in now to the College Board is a student website where students see practice tests, practice multiple choice tests that are scored by the website, so they can get as much feedback as they want without having to take an AP prep class. I know after assessments, for instance, I've seen teachers conference with students after their writing, so in addition to written work, give them suggestions for the next thing that they do. They also their timed writing is only scored with an AP rubric.
Okay.
So it's not an opinion. One of the hardest things for students in writing to realize is that if they write a thesis that does not respond to the prompt, they get a 0 and the rest of the essay is not scored. Because they are taught where to put that thesis, they're taught how to read the prompt. The problem is they've never seen the prompt before, right? So they can get extra help. Bridge block is one of the places where it happens, but additional practice is available.
Okay.
I will say 4s are more probable than 5s, and if you go back to the AP slides, you'll see very small numbers across the state in global in the 5 category. This is really a bell curve kind of situation. So 6, 12, 28, 29, 25, it goes either up or it's skewed in a way that shows you that it's like the brontosaurus. It's meant to separate people. It's not teaching for mastery. And that's the hard thing. A 5 is hard to get because it's often a matter of perception. And students who score at 5s, one of the things I started with my sophomores, day 1, if you want to take AP, start reading. I gave them the lists of works that appear most frequently on AP tests, and they're classics. You know, you're going to have to read them. You have to build your stamina. The best way to develop vocabulary is to read. But if you're not a reader, it's kind of hard senior year to read that much. So if that's something you really want to do, it's not November of your AP Lit class. It would have been November of your freshman or sophomore year, if that's your goal, to really build that breadth in background. And when I taught AP Language, we did State of the State. We divided up all the states in the country among students. It's like, follow the news for your state. In 1 month, we would look at education. In 1 month, we would look at citizenship. In 1 month, we would look at incarceration. And you have to learn about the world to be able to use evidence to argue. So it's not just what's in the class, it's your willingness to be aware of the use of language, argument, and literature as part of your life. I could make another analogy. I'll do it to theater this time. It's all great to do the fall play and the spring musical, but if you're passionate about theater, you're at another organization down Route 18 doing 3 more plays a year, or you're playing a travel sport. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So you want to do it all the time, but you can't just do AP Language and Literature in 5 50-minute periods a week.
Okay.
If you really want to do better, you have to make it a passion and a drive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, my turn.
Sure.
Okay, just going back to the common grade calculation formula, I had a couple of questions. So was the breakdown you gave us the 60, 30, 10?
Yes.
Is that for high school or 7 to 12 or?
That's for high school.
That's for high school.
Yes, and
Okay.
we're suggesting to the middle school that they adopt that also.
Okay.
One of the things we're finding is we have one teacher who teaches grade 7, one teacher who teaches grade 8, and we have someone who teaches grade 7 and grade 8. So that means you have 2 teachers teaching the same curriculum. And sometimes you find that they're not all on the same page. And it's a class where differentiation of instruction is an unleveled class. So this year, they've been taking the PD time and been working on curriculum alignment, so they're doing things the same way. But I would say it's really hard to place an 8th grader in a level 2 class if they have an 87 or a 92.
Okay.
So what has to drive the grade is the academic skill necessary for success at the high school. So we'll make that suggestion now that we took the semester to figure it out, that the bulk of your grade needs to be that standard, like we call them power standards during COVID, and it has to be the way that they write. And if they need to get feedback, and they need to do well at that independently to look at level 1. But I will tell you, something magical happens from this side of the building to that, and it's accountability. They have to earn credit to move to the next grade. They have to be academically eligible to participate in a lot of things. So now that everything counts, there are students who weren't as motivated there who become motivated over here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And kids grow up. It's developmental. And it's hard to be judged by your 7th grade self, you know? So we're going to suggest that formula, we've been working with the formula this year. We have one more department professional development day in May, and that's what we're going to be looking at.
Okay. So that actual formula for 7th and 8th grade too.
I would like to see a 60% minimum driving the grade. I'd love to see more than that. Because too many times as students, what a student knows and is able to do, and we went through a whole year of PD or 2 with grading for equity, and the whole thing is what should count is the performance according to the standard. And that should be the bulk of the grade.
Okay.
And that's a hard lesson to learn. It really is.
I was actually thinking that your breakdown sounds very grading for equity oriented. Okay, going back to the breakdown a little bit more. Okay, so the 10%, the accountability, that's like participation, homework. Did you say homework was in there?
Yeah, homework is more
Okay.
toward accountability
Okay.
than it is a quiz grade when
Okay.
students are practicing skills like outlining or grammar and they're having that evaluated and scored. That goes to the formative assessment
Okay.
because that's where students are becoming acquainted. I think, Chris, you mentioned that whole idea of the feedback. Is it just like a one shot? No, the formative is really that time where that feedback is
Okay.
happening and students are introduced to standards, they're learning the standards, they're practicing them, and other things like projects and other creative work. And it's really great if you do projects, but if they're 50% of your grade and you want to be an AP and you have a 94, there aren't a lot of projects in
Right.
AP. It's the academic writing.
Okay.
And that's the thing that drives the train and ensures success.
Okay. I'm just trying to get like an idea, like a concrete idea of
Sure.
what some of the things. So like the passion projects, would those be in the 60%?
So I do my
Right.
grades differently.
Okay.
And I put, they already had to do a proposal for this
Okay.
project that was part of the formative. And they had to have a conference with me about the nature of their project. So this is a summative assessment that reflects their knowledge of the creative process
Okay.
and understanding what individuality is, innovation. So I would count that as a summative project because I only divide it 2 ways, practice and finished product.
Okay.
So this deserves more than I see you, and I appreciate you, because if you take a look at the rubric, there's this below standard, standard, and exceeds the standard. So when it has a rubric that elaborate, it counts as a summative grade for me. And we do 1 of these a year. And it's hard to have something as a category if you don't do a project every marking period. This is a one kind of thing, but it's treated with the integrity and the planning and the thesis and the evidence that an academic writing piece would have.
Okay.
Just curious, thank you again.
You're welcome.
Also, kudos to the kids who read business books for their passion projects. I love that, and I love that that was encouraged. Are AP the only classes that experience timed writing?
No, upperclassmen experience timed writing. So they'll see that in American literature, and they'll see that again in grade 12 English. It won't be as frequent. Students are acquiring a kind of stop, drop, and roll approach to writing that's appropriate for exams. One of the arguments I have with the College Board is they do not write that way in college. It's helpful to be able to organize quickly, and people who can juggle many assignments. And most writing is done over several weeks in college. So it's sort of an artificial thing, timed writing. But students in grade 11 have timed writing, and students in grade 12 have timed writing. It's just not the focus of the course.
Sure.
It might happen once a marking period.
Thank you.
I have a question, and thank you for coming tonight.
Oh, sure.
Regarding 7th and 8th grade, I know you said that there's one teacher that's dedicated to 7th grade, one dedicated to 8th grade, and then there's one that teaches both. Is there like a standard on how many books they need to get through in one?
They usually get through one book a trimester. So there are probably 3 books that they read in common, sometimes 4 because one of the books is shorter than the other. So there are at least 3 or 4 books a year, usually one major text per trimester.
Okay. And do you know if they're supposed to be, I know this is out of your realm, but are they mostly project-based?
No, I've actually observed teachers, and most of those summative assessments are academic essays.
Okay.
So when they write about the outsiders, they have to write about a character development. They develop a 3-part thesis, even though it seems when they come from this side to that side, they forget that that's what it is. They think it's maybe peculiar to a teacher. But no, I've seen To Kill a Mockingbird, I've seen summative essays that work that way. I've seen it in multiple books. I have seen some projects, but they tend to be in that formative category. Like they might do a character analysis where they draw a character and what does the character see, what does the character hear, what does the character worry about, what does the character feel strongly about, what do characters do, and where do characters grow. And you see graphic organizers all around the room, and then they write an essay about character development. So they're all working toward essays as their summative piece, regardless of the teacher.
Okay.
Now, I will say, because they're offered an assignment, doesn't mean they all complete it. And they don't necessarily complete it to the best of their ability. So it's kind of a buffet. It's offered, it's required, but not every student at grade 7 and 8 is heavily invested. Some are more invested than others. And we don't have leveled classes there where they do for math. So students have accommodations and modifications, and I think we've learned that middle school life is different than high school life. And I was the person who researched that when we decided to level or not to level. Putting students in a box in grade 7 often inhibits growth. So you want them to see a range of achievement and scaffold them to achieve as much as they can. Not everybody will do it. It's kind of like going to a buffet and saying you can have a healthy buffet or not. The buffet is there, and if you just go straight to the dessert table, you're missing out on your vegetables or your protein or what have you. I like to throw my metaphors around.
Oh, and I have one more question.
Oh, please.
Is there any way that you guys are checking to see if any of the papers have been written through AI? Because it's so easy to obtain that now. I'm sorry, I just have to ask.
So for 42 years, I've been a human lie detector, and the copy and paste era of the internet made it really hard. But most teachers who know students and do a sample of writing, baseline before you start, can spot when a student uses the word perspicacity or has a complex compound sentence that has parallel structure and lists, and you say, tell me about your decision to do this. What does this word mean? This is a semicolon. You've never used semicolons before. Do you think you can tell me them? So yes, we do have AI problems. Most teachers can spot them, but it's not like the copy and paste era where you could Google a sentence because you can't Google it. What we do use, among the more reliable, is ChatGPT AI detector. So I would upload an essay or copy and paste an essay in a computer file to this, and then I'm given on the dashboard a range of writing that may be AI. And There are lots of reasons for AI. One is if a student uses Grammarly, and Grammarly gives them a choice of vocabulary words or offers a sentence combination. It's not that they had AI write the essay, but AI was like your friendly writing center assistant. But it's still not their work. They didn't choose those words. They don't know how that grammar construction works. If a paper is 50% or more AI, I bring the student in. If it's 20%, I might say, this doesn't sound like you. And when you see the report, they highlight in yellow the things that are most likely to be AI. Now, I've had students come in and write things over by hand. And the problem is, if a student is fairly simple, predictable writing, it looks like a robot wrote it. And it's just them. They didn't go to AI. You can see them typing it in on a lockdown browser, and it wasn't that. So it's really hard, but I'd rather have students, I think the analogy that I just saw in the Boston College Alumni Magazine was, you can join the track team, and you can run around the track, or you can drive the golf cart. You get around the track the same way, but what have you done? And tell students, do it yourself when they're on a deadline, when they want to impress. And the whole idea is to get students to care about learning rather than the grade. On the other hand, welcome paper, welcome blue books. Students need to print or write by hand, and they're not allowed to compose on a computer. So as lovely as word processing is to ensure student authenticity, many teachers in the English department are having essays written by hand. Talk about old school.
Can I just add to that for the committees and the community's edification? How do you like that?
Nice.
AI.
Yeah. Mr. Bykowski, our director of IT, and I attended a conference in Boston a couple of months ago on AI in public schools, and he and I will be forming a committee. What else will we do? Form a committee to look at what do we expect, allow for our students, but also for staff, and do we go down the road of having guidelines? Does that eventually lead to a school committee policy? So that's forthcoming. That'll probably be, we'll probably look for volunteers in the spring to start in the fall.
And AI use is not black and white. You can put a prompt in AI and they will write you essays. Sometimes when I want model essays using other books rather than the book we're working on, I've used it to create that. But AI can't usually plug in quotes from a work that's not in the public domain. That's a problem. What I try to get students to say, if you want to know how to punctuate a sentence that has fragments of a quote in a list, well, put that in AI and find out examples that you might strive toward for a particular kind of sentence structure. It's not about using it for an assessment, but it's using it to learn. So if we needed to look up something about a particular place. I mean, Meta does that for you already. You Google it and it gives you answers. The thing that I think I need to talk to Mr. Bykowski about is Microsoft Word now has a writing assistant that is kind of equivalent to Grammarly. And if it gives students the false confidence of being assisted, when they get to AP and they're on a lockdown browser, when they're on MCAS in a lockdown browser, when they're doing stamp testing and they don't do that, you might have gotten a grade in the class, you might have fooled Dr. G or any of the other English teachers, but in the end, when you're accountable, it's a problem. And when it's in the program we use, that's again why we have to go to paper.
Can I ask, when you say lockdown browser, do we have the capability to take students' computers and not allow them, like just in one room, we can say you're not allowed to access the internet? How does that work? Or are they given like separate computers that don't have access?
No, a lockdown browser is an actual app that prevents them from accessing the internet while they're word processing.
Okay.
We do that, and a lot of times, for instance, students are taking MCAS. Part of that is a lockdown browser, so they can't leave the testing situation and go look up
Gotcha.
something online. We have students who are doing their timed writing in Canvas. So, or when they take it, put it in a Canvas quiz, the lockdown browser is engaged so that they can't go off and look up the answer to a question or find examples from a poem or how is tone used in this Hemingway short story. So it's simpler than you'd think. They're not like computers that aren't connected to the internet.
Okay. Yeah, you're just on a browser that essentially they can't navigate away from. They're stuck in there and can't. Okay.
Correct.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you.
Dr. Gonzalez, thank you very much for your time tonight.
My pleasure.
Before you walk away from the podium, though, I just want to take a minute on behalf of the school committee and acknowledge all the time, everything you've done for the Abington Public Schools. Your retirement in about 12 weeks, give or take a day or two. So congratulations to you on that achievement. Thank you for everything and best of luck.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be part of the Abington community. Getting this job was a dream for me, and I don't know what it's going to be like to be out of school because I haven't been out of school since I was 5. So I think it's going to hit in September, but I think the best thing I can say is I'm going to take a gap year, but I will miss everyone. I mean, I have a former student sitting here in the administration of the school. My assistant principal is a former student. I mean, far and wide. I think I missed having you as a student. By a year. But
Dr. G,
anyway.
if you keep your query up to date, you can always come back. We're always looking for evaluators and subs but thank you for everything.
You'll know where to find me.
Thank you for
Thank you
everything.
very much for everything.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez.
Ms. Ellis, could I possibly ask you to put the projects if people want to look at them behind the librarian?
Yes.
So I think I'll continue on. Good evening to you officially. The next item on the agenda is memorandum of agreement between the Abington Education Association and you, the school committee. So I'll just give you a little background. We have talked about this in executive session. I won't go into that level of detail, but briefly for the community, this school year from November to February, along with the president of the AEA, I facilitated a joint labor management committee, which means there were representatives from the teachers union and there were representatives from the Abington administrators to look at the Abington educator evaluation tool, which has been in place since 2012. And over that time period, DESE has made some changes. And we were able to, over the course of those many months, from November to February, meeting twice a month for 2 or 3 hours at a time, we were able to negotiate how can we update our education evaluation system to meet the guidance of DESE and use DESE's newest rubric, which is from 2024. How can we do that in a way that seemed fair and equitable to management and labor, right? That's why it's a joint labor management committee. So what you have in your packet is the results, or are the results of all of that work. I really want to thank the committee members who did all of that hard work. And I'm not going to go item by item, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I can say that the AEA has ratified the MOA already, and I'm happy to take questions.
If anybody has any questions for Dr. Basta, feel free. I know we might have asked them already in the executive session. If we're good, then we can make a motion to approve.
There haven't been any changes,
Nope.
significant changes since.
No changes.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Basta? No?
No.
Okay, if not, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. I'll continue on. I will just share that now that you've ratified, the chair and the president of the AEA will sign the MOA, and then I will incorporate all of the changes into the full document and share that with all of the administrators and the teachers. Moving on to my next item, which is off agenda, for a minute, just because Dr. Robbins is going to follow me, so that there's not an interruption then. I just wanted to share informationally with the committee. We have 2 surveys coming up for students that have been given in the past here in Abington. They've been approved by the school committee in the past. One is mandated by DESE every 4 years to look at school climate and culture. The last time that it was done here in Abington, we modified the sample survey for students, and that's the same one that we would be using again, the modified version that's been approved by the school committee. So you know, it would be for students from grade 3 to 12, not all students. It would be a representative sampling of students in all of those grade levels. Students can opt out, or families for the younger kids can opt out, and also it's anonymous. The purpose of those, I think it's about 15 questions on that survey. The purpose is to really see generally how are kids feeling in our schools. Do they feel safe? Do they feel like they belong? There are some questions directly about bullying, but it's more holistic on how is the student experiencing school? Do they feel safe and a sense of belonging? Any questions about that survey? It will be, I believe, towards the end of April. Yeah.
Do we get that data, or does that data just go to DESE?
Dr. Robbins, do you know the answer to that?
We'll have the data that we have compiled here by building one, and when we did this work 4 years ago,
We do not participate in the MCAS developed that gets reported to DESE. We have it in-house. We developed it using some of those questions, and all the data stays in Abington.
Okay.
I think does that answer that question?
Yep. So we have to report it back? 'Cause-
We do not have to report it back.
Oh, we don't at all?
No.
Okay.
You just have to do it.
We have to do it. And
It's
use it.
mandated.
In some
It has to
form.
be done.
Yes.
Okay.
And honestly, it's a good thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Take the temperature of the culture in each building.
Yep.
Yeah, as long as that information is disseminated to the people who can impact the
All right.
culture as
Yes.
well, I think. So
Yep.
as long as we take that data and do something with it,
Yep.
it feels
Yes.
valuable.
Yes.
it helps investing performs a civil audit of us to ensure that this is done. So that's
Can I just add, when we did this 4 years ago, I should remember, and I don't, I'm sorry, but was there anything actionable that we found that we were able to kind of work with and kind of see positive outcomes from?
So what during the time that we administered it 4 years ago, that was a period of time where we were doing some exploration of social emotional learning, and what we did is we some of the areas where we found there were students reporting when we compared it to the district, buildings that were reporting maybe less students feeling less of a sense of relationship between teachers or feeling higher levels of stress. We made sure that there was like more social emotional activities at that level. So so that was part of a discussion and thinking at that time.
And then do we compare the data set from every 4 years? Because 4 years ago, we were still very much coming out of the pandemic.
Yes.
So I'm expecting that we're going to see some fairly different results or things that people are focused on now.
Oh, well, we'll absolutely have the information in order to do that. We have it all readily compiled. So when we then compile this year's, we can absolutely do a comparison. And also because the questions are closely adapted to the DESE generated questions, an activity we had done 4 years ago was we compared Abington to the statewide trends, knowing just that there's a little bit of language difference and so on in the ways we asked the question, but it still gave us a sense as to how we compare to the state. So yeah, as you said, we can compare 4 years ago and compare how we're doing generally to the state.
Thank you.
Any other questions about that survey? All right. And so the other one that I do want to share with you, you might remember 2 years ago, from grades 9 to 12, we administered again, a modified, shorter version of the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. That is a request that the CDC puts out to school districts, and it is often tied to grant funding. So in Abington COPES, the grants that they receive from the CDC are tied to this data. So for Abington COPE's sake and for us, it's good information for us to have about how our students are, how they are faring with risky behavior. And that includes everything from illegal substances to doing unsafe things in the community, let's put it that way. So it is also anonymous. It is also, students have the ability to opt out also. This is given to all 9th through 12th grade students. They have time during a bridge block when they can when they do the survey. It will happen towards the end of April also. And again, like I said, kids can opt out. For this one, the information that gets, there is some data that gets back to the CDC, but it's aggregate data. So it's a percentage of students expressed this, answered this or that. There's nothing that is specific to any one student, and nothing is personally identifiable. Questions about that one?
Do these surveys happen during class time or?
This is during bridge block.
Okay.
Yep. The other, I'm not sure when we have done the DESI survey.
Yes, it's been a building. We establish a shared week in which it gets done, but each building will interpret it differently. For example, the high school is done during the health classes, and the middle school is during advisory, and I think the other Hinsdale. We didn't the exact time, but I think they tried to make time.
Yeah. Thank you. Other questions? Nope. Great. If any come up, let me know, and when we have data, we will definitely share information with you. Moving on to the next part of the agenda for me, and Dr. Robbins is going to be talking about this summer's programming. And the first one that I will share information with you about is what we provide for middle school students. You'll remember from last year, we did not, due to declining enrollment, it just wasn't feasible for us to offer high school credit recovery anymore. So instead, last spring, we shared options for students outside of Abington. So local communities that offer credit recovery, and then also some online DESI-approved credit recovery models. And that was successful last year. And so the same approach will happen for high school students needing to do some credit recovery this summer. For middle school, last summer we continued to offer our Summer Academy program, which is really broken into two classes. One that is focused on STEM, science and math, and the other is humanities, really focusing on social studies and language arts. And that meets, let me go to the next page. And so there is no credit recovery for middle school students, as Dr. G pointed out a few minutes ago. There is no credit. You're just taking the classes, moving through. So this program is recommended to students if they've missed a lot of instruction so that they're prepared for the next year. Any questions about that part of the middle school program?
Can I ask, I was trying to find my notes and I didn't get there. I felt like, based on my recollection, it wasn't very well attended last summer.
Correct.
And I thought we remember having the discussion of, I know it's tuition based, but is it worth it for us to do? Will we assess attendance and enrollment before committing to educators to teach that?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
The thing that we never know is we do accept students from other communities. So last year, you're right, I think the number was around 9 or 10 students, and 3 of them were from other communities. So we would have to wait and see, and then make that decision.
Okay.
Thank you for
And
asking.
the cost for this program are the 2 instructors We already have a director on site, so if we can make it work, we want to, because those students have such gaps in their knowledge that a 4-week program will absolutely help them going
Yeah.
into the next grade.
And it will help everyone because the educator is not spending time catching
Yes.
people up.
And if we, financially, it's just not reasonable to run it, do we have knowledge of something that we can either recommend to them or an online sort of resource to?
With middle school students in particular, we would like them to be in person someplace.
Correct.
And so if we were to not run the program, even prior to that, we would find out what neighboring communities are having for middle school programs. But as Dr. Vasa said, we actually typically get a few from other communities. But yes, there would be options. We'll do everything we can to run this program, but if it doesn't run, we'll find options.
And then the next slide is just the key information that people would like to know. The dates for all of our summer programming, July 6th to July 30th, and then the cost is also on that slide. So, yes.
Just to clarify, do you mean the grade levels served? Do you mean rising grade 7 and rising grade 8?
Yes.
Okay.
This question is more probably for ESY, so we can table it if you want, but looking at the dates, it makes me wonder, with school starting almost a full week after, would there be a benefit to those students who need to maintain skills to be pushing this out another week so we're closer to the start of the school year?
So
That does sound like ESY, but go ahead.
well, it's both programs, but we typically, so school's getting out a little bit later, and yes, school's starting later. We typically start around the 4th of July. So there's been many years where we started July 1st, gone 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, no school 3, 4. So keeping, I'm going to speak for Dr. Robbins for a second, and correct me if I'm wrong. Keeping it in July, we have a much higher chance of finding our staff. And our staff.
Okay.
They work the month of July, then they have the month of August off.
I see.
And I would say the same for families. Planning wise, ESY July, vacation or camps in August.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate.
It'll be more than that on the back end, James, next year.
4.5.
Yeah, it'll be like 4.5 weeks next year to start.
4. Yeah. But that's pushing it one way or the other. I think mentally for folks,
Yeah.
summer school's in July.
Okay.
Definitely thinks about it, hopefully really capable. And also, and hold on, because we have a lot of returning staff who are using the anyway. So if we want to, the teams we have, they are accustomed to it.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions about the middle school program, Dr. Robbins?
All right, so thanks everyone. I'm here tonight to share background information about the extended school year program for those who may be unaware, and also to provide information about the upcoming program so that folks can start making their summer plans. And also it's during the month of April when we ask our families to start signing up for our program. So first, I will provide just a little bit of information about why the program exists, so families can understand why their child may or may not be eligible. So the thing to know about our extended school year program is it's designed first for students with disabilities. So to be eligible, a student has to have an IEP to begin with. But one should also know that some students with IEPs are eligible for the program, but not all. And so what are the criteria that make it so that one would be eligible for the program? So the idea is that students who are eligible are those students who are prone to regression in skill development over substantial gaps in instruction. Because the program exists with the idea that most summers are, approximately 11 weeks, and all students, disability or not, are expected to have some regression. But there are some individuals with disabilities who are prone to significant regression. And so when the new school year starts, they're at almost a double disadvantage. One, they regressed more significantly during the summer months, and secondly, they have the disability to begin with. So that makes it so that when they start the school year, they may be at a more challenge to catch up and keep pace with their peers. So as a result, federal special education decision makers mandated that throughout the country, all school departments have ESY programs. So the program in Abington that exists runs for 4 weeks during the month of July. So what we do in our programs is we divide our students by grade level, so that they participate with students of the same grade. In most cases, what we do is our classrooms focus on ELA and math skills, as those are the core skills at each grade level. There are some classes, though, that are for students who participate in our therapeutic learning center programs, and students in these programs require a more comprehensive instruction. So they tend to require instructions pertaining to social skills, readiness for learning skills, behavior management, functional communication, fine and gross motor. So these students participate in a program that focuses on numeracy and literacy, but also all of those skills that I spoke about as well. But the majority of students, when they're in our program, will participate in classes with students of the same grade level, in most cases with teachers who teach with us during the year, and work on ELA and math skills that were introduced during the previous year. Because this skill is all about maintenance of skills, not sort of moving ahead on new skills. Additionally, all of our teachers are asked to incorporate students' individualized goals into their work. So by and large, students are learning literacy and numeracy, but a student may have a goal of working on a 5-paragraph essay. So that child we would ensure would get more practice with that particular skill. Also, some things to note are that our ESY program includes related services for those students who need it. And by that, we mean like speech language therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. So those decisions are made by the team. But if a student is eligible for related services in addition to the extended school year program, we would find convenient times during the time they're with us for our related service provider to meet with that student. One thing, as I've mentioned in the past, is the summer program has felt consistently like a fairly successful and welcoming program. So again, we tend to have staff who come back again and again. During that, so we have people who know the students to begin with and know our community well. And it also allows us the ability to trial some arrangements with students. We may have students who appear to be ready to participate in an education that requires less support. So during the summer, we might trial some arrangements that simulate that to say whether or not the student might be able to participate with more independence in the fall. Additionally, we've had some students who struggle with issues such as school avoidance. And so it's during the summer months where we're able to simulate what school is like to help build up that skill, to help build up that like tolerance and comfort in a school building with peers. And that helps to get them ready for returning to school in the fall. Also, our TLC programs over the past few years have incorporated a number of fun field trips, including visiting the library and bowling. So those are just some overview notes on the program. And now probably most importantly, is just when and what. Or we talked about the what, when. As Chris mentioned, our program runs July 6th to July 30th. As Dr. Michelle mentioned, we always schedule it around the July 4th holiday. July 6th is the Monday right after the July 4th holiday. It runs Monday through Thursday for 4 consecutive weeks. So Monday through Thursday, so on for 4 weeks. The program starts at 8:30 in the morning and runs to 12:15. So that means 3 hours and 45 minutes of instruction. And also the program takes place at 201 Glenwood's Way, which may feel odd for elementary students, but we found it over time it's a nice facility here. It's temperature controlled, And what we do in the weeks leading up to the summer program is we work with our facilities department to make sure that our classrooms feel comfortable and have the necessary furniture for students. And an important note on registration. So during the month of April, we'll be issuing registration emails to all relevant families. So that means a member of our department goes through all IEPs to find eligible students and reaches out to families to say, do you intend to register for the summer? The reason we go through this process is that not all eligible students attend, and we wouldn't want an arrangement where we assumed a whole class of students were coming, but only one does, and a student doesn't have any classmates. Also, we just want to make sure that the staffing is appropriate. We don't want to have either too little or too many, for obvious reasons, on both sides. So we go through a registration process during the month of April, where we're basically just saying, hey, here are the details, and do you plan to come? And by the way, are there any weeks or days you anticipate being absent? A thing to note is that if a family does not register, that is not a deal breaker because it is in a student's IEP, they're entitled to that service. So if they do show up on day one, of course they would be welcomed. This just helps us operationally. So those emails will be going out in April, and then after we get after those emails are distributed, it's usually in mid-May when we would issue an email to say, hey, here's who your teacher is. Here's some material, like here's some things to note ahead of time, some information about our medical arrangement and nursing arrangement, and other key details. So those are all the components I wish to share. Are there any questions?
I had a comment. A PSA for the ESY. As a parent who went through it for many, many years, unbelievable program, Dr. Robbins, that's just gotten better and better each year. So I just wanted to put that out there for anybody listening. I think you made a good point too, because I know some may say, I'm going to go away 4th of July week, but you're very accommodating, let you know ahead of time. For anybody listening, if you can't make it a certain week, just let them know and they'll work around it and come the other 3. Question I had, what percentage of the students that are eligible do you normally get to show up? You don't need to give me an exact, but like ballpark.
So I would say that it's been fairly successful. So I'm going to ballpark around 90%.
Great. Okay.
But we still do the registration process because we don't want any core aspects to be met. With that said, last year there was a lower enrollment than had been anticipated. So this year we're just going to make sure that we're going to double check some things. We had some families who signed up but just didn't end up coming overall. So we're careful that we're not expending resources that needlessly.
Got it. Okay, Great. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Robbins? Thank you very much, Dr. Robbins. Thank you, Dr. Basta.
Thank you.
Up next, report of the superintendent, Dr. Felicia Michella.
Thank you. Each year, we're members of 2 education collaboratives, the Reeds Collaborative and the North River Collaborative. And each year, the school committee appoints me to the board of both of those collaboratives. And during the school year, we meet regularly, and we're part of the governance of those 2 boards. So I'd be looking for a motion. There's 2 separate motions, a motion to appoint me to represent the Abington Public Schools on the board of directors of Reeds Collaborative for the 26-27 school year.
Does anybody have any questions on either of them? If any have any questions on either appointment, we can do it right now. Okay. All right, so with that, I'll be looking for a motion to appoint Dr. Felicia Michella to serve as the Abington Public Schools representative on the board of directors of Reeds Collaborative for the 2026-27 school year.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then likewise, a motion to appoint Dr. Michella to serve as the Abington Public Schools representative on the board of directors of North River Collaborative for the 2026-27 school year.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Do you want to pass
Yep, Sarah's going to start, and then I'm going to pick it up.
this? Mrs. Gainey?
Good evening. So tonight, I'm just going to do a quick recap of where we stand with the FY27 budget. As discussed at our last meeting on March 10th, we have reduced our FY27 budget increase by $141,843. As more detailed information has been coming in, that's a difference of $141,843 since our initial budget was developed in January. The ways that we were able to come to this number, we were able to reduce, with Dr. Robbins' assistance and guidance, one out-of-district collaborative placement. We were able to decrease the increase in projected regular education transportation from 20% to 15%. And we were able to realize an increase in the projected circuit breaker reimbursement from 72% to 75%. So with those three things, we were able to adjust the budget number by $141,843 to be exact.
Adjust down.
Just down.
Adjust it down.
Oh, did I say up?
No, you said adjust it.
Oh, okay, adjust it down, okay. But with that being said, this adjustment does not restore any of the positions that were presented on the reduction in force list, because this is a decrease to the proposed increase. So with this decrease, it sets the gap between level service and level funded to $1,622,114. This is the amount that will be presented at town meeting for the school department on May 4th, 2026, as well as the ballot vote on May 16th, 2026. As we have discussed at the last couple of meetings, if the override does not pass, there will be substantial impact on students, staff, programming, and services. And Dr. Michela tonight is going to talk a little bit more about those impacts in greater detail.
Thank you. So just to reiterate, what Sarah just talked about is not a change, anything changed from our March 10th school committee meeting. I'm also not going to go through all of the 28.1 positions again tonight, but I did want to take an opportunity to again talk about the impact of those cuts to our schools. So there's a 28.1 FTE, full-time equivalent reduction, should the override not pass. And that has a significant impact on our students, our staff, our families, and our community. For example, it will reduce individualized supports to meet individual student needs. So we won't be able to have the same level of individualized support. We'll see an increased class size at a number of grade levels. There'll be a decrease in early interventions during foundational learning years. The elimination of reading specialists, math interventionists, that will diminish early intervention ability. Limited targeted academic interventions for students performing below grade level. Reduce mental health and behavioral supports for our students. Most, if not all, middle and high school students will have an academic lab, or in other words, study hall, each for next year, and some may have more than one. And that's due to cuts in electives, wellness, computer science, and English and science electives. There are, in some instances, a shift in service delivery models for students with on IEPs. And there'll be a strain on the staff and systems who remain after, should those positions need to be cut. And finally, there will be an operational and facilities impact with a decrease in custodial services, IT support, and summer custodial services, as well as a reduction in our community engagement and with the elimination of our interpreter. So these cuts will have an impact, will hurt kids. And I I just wanted to reiterate that. I have done, I'd like to thank Town Manager Michael Maresco. I did on a cable show with him on Friday and was able to lay these out, also these positions out again. And if anyone has any questions about the positions or more specific examples of how these cuts will impact our students, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thanks.
Yep, no problem. So new business and establishment of the next school committee meeting, Tuesday, April 28th, 2026 at 6:30 PM here in the library. We have a few dates here. Thursday, March 26th, Abington High School open mic night. Does anybody know the time?
That actually got moved.
That got moved.
Okay,
It's a date in April. I want to say it's the 10th. I'm trying to figure it out right now.
If I can,
Um,
excuse me pulling out my.
we'll go back to it. We'll
Okay.
we'll pick up at the end. Saturday, March 28th, Abington Education Foundation Trivia Fundraiser, 6:30 PM at the Knights of Columbus Hall on Hancock Street. Monday, March 30th, the LPAC meeting at 6:30 in the middle school seminar room. Wednesday, April 1st, CPAC meeting at 6:30 PM in the library. Thursday, April 2nd, Beaverbrook Literacy Night in their gym at 5:30 PM. Friday, April 10th, the Abington High School Grand March and Junior Prom at 5 PM. Monday, April 13th, Abington Middle School School Council at 4 PM. Monday, April 13th, the Abington Middle School PTO meeting at 7 PM. Monday, April 20th is spring vacation, so April 20th through the 24th is spring vacation for students. And at the end of that week, Saturday, April 25th, is the annual town elections at Beaverbrook Elementary School. I believe 8 to 6. Should probably know that.
Open mic night has been changed to April 30th.
April 30th is open mic night, which, if my math is fast, and it's not, is a Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay. Because April 32nd would have been a Saturday, so. Does anybody else have anything they need to add?
Can we offer our congratulations to the Abington High School Drama Club on a very successful run of their most recent show, which, oh dear God, it's been
Into
a
the
day.
Woods.
Into the Woods. I got to spend quite a bit of time with those kids on their run up to the show. Each and every one of them was spectacular and amazing job done by cast, crew, staff, everyone. So thank you to all who came up to watch them, who helped out with concessions, all of the things. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else have anything?
I was just going to add, you didn't mention trivia night, I don't think, right?
Yeah, it's the first one. You guys are looking for your date.
I was looking for okay.
It's Saturday, March 28th at 6:30 PM at the Knights of Columbus. So that's all I had. If there's nothing else, I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.